that they're having an affair or it was very shy.
Yeah, and then I got the invitation to Coldplay. I invited him to come. It was sort of a non-decision. It was just kind of like, hey, we got tickets. Do you want to come? And we'd been keeping it together. Like, I could go to work and be normal. I can go to a concert and be normal until I couldn't, obviously.
I am really sorry that you had to go through that.
Thank you. At the center of the trauma for me is how women have treated me. And it was really scary to come here and sit in the center of a room full of primarily women.
Your first interview. Thank you. Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you.
Good job. Good job. Good job. Well done. Well done. Well done. Well done. Well done. Well done.
Thank you.
And you do want to work again, right?
I'm dying to go. I'm so bored. I said to Gaylor, I have so much gas left in the tank. I'm dying to get back to work.
So he's got job offers and you haven't.
No.
That's wow.
But I do just want to say, me sitting here, I was honestly, hearing your perspective, seeing it on social
300 billion views. Only 8.3 billion people on this planet. The most watched video of 2025. I did a breakdown of this moment when it first happened. You can find that video in the description. Back then, I analyzed what the body said in those 15 seconds. Today, I want to show you what happened next and what the signals reveal that most people completely missed. Because this story didn't end at the concert. It went from a stadium jumbotron in Boston to a corporate resignation to a Hollywood-produced ad in 9 days. And every person in this chain, the woman who spoke, the man who stayed silent, the company that tuned the scandal into an ad, and the interviewer who shaped the narrative before the cameras tuned on, every single one of them sent signals. My name is Tatiana Teppoeva. I'm a nonverbal intelligence expert and personality profiler. Today, I'm going to show you what Kristin Cabot's body revealed in the Oprah's interview, what Andy Byron's silence actually communicated, what Ryan Reynolds and Gwyneth Paltrow did, what their own signals said about their values, and what Oprah was really doing in that room. Stay until the Oprah section, because what I noticed about the interviewer is the part of this story nobody's talking about. Before we analyze anything, we need to know who we are watching, because personality shapes every signal the body sends. And once we know the type, everything that follows makes sense. Andy Byron, CEO of Astronomer, a data workflow technology company valued at approximately $1.2 billion at the time of the incident. He was brought as CEO in 2023 after 20 years across enterprise tech companies, including Fuse, Cybereason, and Placewalk. Under his leadership, the company raised a $93 million Series D and grew 206% year over year. His net worth is estimated around $20 to $70 million. From a personality profiling perspective, he reads as a strategist type, long-term thinker, doesn't perform for the camera, moves quietly, removes obstacles efficiently, and when threatened, exits the exposure rather than managing it. Kristin Cabot, Chief People Officer at Astronomer. She had spent 20 years in HR leadership, most recently at Neo4j, where she grew the company from 225 to 900 employees. She joined Astronomer in November 2024, just 8 months before the concert. Ironically, her role was specifically to set, maintain, and enforce workplace conduct standards, including policy about relationships between supervisors and their direct reports. Her estimated net worth is significantly less than Byron's. It is about $500,000 to $1 million. Before the incident, Cabot posted publicly on LinkedIn that she was energized in my conversation with Andy Byron. And Byron called her exceptional. The professional language they used about each other publicly is worth remembering when you watch the Oprah interview. She reads as a performer-initiator type. Expressive, driven by visibility, needs to be seen correctly, not a person who stays quiet under pressure. She's the one who invited Byron to the concert. She's the one who eventually went to Oprah. One small humanizing detail before we go further. Her husband's name is Andrew, Andy for short. Her boss's name is Andy Byron. 2 Andys. She keeps clarifying which one she means throughout the Oprah interview, and it's both confusing and oddly revealing. Her personal and professional lives had become so entangled that even the names overlapped. Kristin Cabot and Andy Byron are two very different personality types, two very different responses to the same 15 seconds. One ducked, one eventually took the stage. And one more person in this story whose personality type matters. We will come back to her. I want to go back to the moment itself. This is where the signal story begins. They were swaying to yellow when the kiss cam hit, one of Coldplay's most famous love songs. Watch their reaction when they see themselves on the screen. She tunes and covers her face, her body contracts, the hands go up before the mind had finished processing what is happening. He ducks immediately, not a gradual pull away, no attention to the woman whose body he was just touching, an immediate removal of himself from the frame. The strategist under pressure doesn't manage the exposure, he exits it, quickly and completely. Now look at where his arm is positioned in the footage. His arm was not around her waist, it was across her chest. It's an important detail because if this was truly the first evening that they had any physical contact, as she claims later, that level of familiarity doesn't happen in the first moment. And TMZ obtained a second video shot from behind the seats during yellow, before the kiss cam found them. You can see Byron going in for a kiss while they sway to the music. Again, she said that night was the first time they had any physical contact. But that level of physical ease, that comfort in each other's bodies, doesn't look like people discovering touch for the first time that evening. Now, here is the question. If they were both separated and innocent, why did they react like people who got caught doing something wrong? The body answered the question in real time, and 300 billion views later, the answer has not changed. Kristin already said herself, I made a bad decision and had a couple of night noons and danced and acted inappropriately with my boss. Not my words, hers. So when she sits down with Oprah a few months later, she is not there to confess. She already did that. She is there to reframe. And here is a detail that is analytically interesting. After the video went viral, a fake apology statement attributed to Byron spread across social media. I saw that too. Shared in multiple languages by major publications before AFP fact-checked it as completely false. Byron never said or sent any of it. But here is what the fake statement tells us. People needed him to apologize. They wanted it so badly that they created it, shared it, and believed it. And the fact that he never actually gave that apology, while a fake version spread around the world, is itself the most revealing signal in his entire story. The public read his silence correctly, and they filled it with what they needed to hear. And here is the moment in the Oprah interview I can't stop thinking about. It's where Cabot describes being in the elevator while leaving the concert. A stranger asked her, was it you on the Jumbotron?
We're in the elevator heading down, and a woman in the elevator was like, wait, was that you on the Jumbotron? And I was like, no. And then my friend Elena looked at me and was like, is that what we're saying? I said, like, we're saying no, that wasn't you? Like, what, should we huddle up on this?
Her immediate response was no. No pause, no laugh, no, oh my goodness, yes, it was me. Just an automatic no. The reflex of someone for whom concealment had already become the instinct. Before any PR preparation, before lawyers, before the New York Times, before Oprah. Just a stranger in an elevator and an automatic no. That reflex told me more than anything else in the entire 1-hour interview with Oprah. Think about this for yourself. If you were separated and innocent and nothing wrong had happened, what would your response be in that elevator? Would your reflex be to deny it? Or would it be to laugh? And she described her two thoughts in the moment the kiss cam found her. First, her husband was somewhere in the building. Second, she said, oh my God, Andy's my boss. I work in HR. Her own words tell you exactly what the nervous system registered in that moment. Not innocence, consequence. 5 months after the concert, in December 2025, Cabot gave her interview to the New York Times. Written only, no camera. She said she made a bad decision and paid for that. 3 months after that, March 2026, she went further. She chose Oprah Winfrey for what she called her only on-camera interview, a podcast audience in New York City, rows of women surrounding her, 1 hour to tell her version of the story. Why Oprah? Because Oprah has institutional authority to rehabilitate narratives. Because Oprah's audience is predominantly women, the same group Cabot said came after her most harshly. And because the performer initiator under threat needs the biggest possible stage to rebuild what was lost. But was she successful at that rebuilding? It was 8 months after the concert Cabot sat down with Oprah. She said it would be her only on-camera interview. She said that silence would feel like acceptance and she wanted to explain. That is the performer initiator under threat. The instinct is to take the stage and control the narrative, exactly consistent with her personality type. I noticed something I can't ignore. Multiple times throughout the interview, Cabot's head moves from side to side while she makes affirmative statements. You may remember from my Anna Wintour and Chloe Mall breakdown, I analyzed the head shake that says no while the mouth says yes. Anna said Chloe is already a great Vogue editor while her head moved from side to side. The nervous system communicating something different from the words. I'm seeing the same pattern here. I want to note one thing about analytical discipline. Without a baseline video of Cabot before this incident, I cannot be completely certain this is situation specific rather than a pre-existing habit. Neither of Kristin or Andy has any prior video footage available publicly. Both deleted their LinkedIn profiles and all digital presence immediately after the incident. That removal of their own history is itself a signal. What makes me confident this is a pattern rather than a habit is the specificity. It clusters around particular topics consistently, not randomly across everything she says. She says they developed feelings for each other. Head goes no first, then says yes.
We developed feelings for each other during that time.
She says it was a no-brainer to invite Andy to the concert. Head goes no.
It was like such a no-brainer to invite Andy.
She says they were keeping it together at work. Head goes no.
And we'd been keeping it together. Like I can go to work and be normal. I can go to a concert and be normal.
Yeah.
She talks about her husband knowing how closely she and Andy walked, then says it was fine. Head goes no, strongly.
It's, he knows how closely Andy and I work together. He knows we got lunches and got drinks. It was fine.
She says, I have never been involved with anyone I worked with before. Head goes no.
I've never been involved with anyone I've worked with before.
Before anyone comments about buttocks, yes, it affects the face, but the head shake, no, is not a facial muscle movement. Buttocks doesn't affect it. That signal was fully available to read regardless of anything else. And watch how she presents throughout the interview. Many comments focused on her appearance, but what creates the impression of artificiality is not the surgeries, it's the signals, the careful expression management, the controlled effect, the face that looks like it's always slightly performing even in a vulnerable moment. If the same face came with spontaneous, unmanaged signals, the perception would be completely different. The signals are doing more work than the face, and that is true for all of us. The head shake no during affirmative statements doesn't automatically mean lying. It can mean the person believes part of what they are saying, but not all of it. It can mean they are telling a shaped version of events. It can mean the words and the internal reality are in conflict in ways the speaker might not fully be aware of. What I can tell you is that this pattern, appearing consistently across multiple specific topics, is the body telling a different story from the words. The topics that trigger it are not random. They cluster around the nature of her relationship with Byron before the concert, the decision to go with him, and her professional choices. I don't trust her story, and her own nervous system appears to agree with me. But I also want to be clear. Not trusting her story doesn't mean I think what happened to her was acceptable or fair. Both things can be true. The signals suggest she is not telling the complete truth, and the response she received was disproportionate and gendered. I hold both of those reads simultaneously. And here is the observation that is getting almost no attention. For someone whose entire career was built on human-centered leadership, empathy, trust, people first, watch how she talks about the people her choices affected beyond herself. The empathy signals appear almost exclusively when she is describing her own pain and her kids. How about Byron's wife? How about women who trusted her at work? How about women that she said she supported? This is not a judgment, this is a signal. During the interview, Oprah revealed something she had done before the interview. She called Gwyneth Paltrow, the woman who appeared in the Astronomer ad, and asked her about it. Gwyneth told Oprah she had been told both Cabot and Byron approved the ad before she agreed to do it. Cabot denied approving it, and then Oprah added one more detail. Gwyneth had sent Cabot an email and had not heard back. This email detail matters because it is the moment where her stated desire for resolution meets a concrete test. She has spent an hour saying she wants accountability, honesty, conversation. And then someone tried to open that conversation and apparently got no response. Watch Cabot's reaction when Oprah says this.
She also said that she sent you an email and that she hadn't heard back from the email. So I just wanted to say that. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Okay.
She pauses, her lips pressed together, slightly hiding them, a small closed smile. And she says, thank you. That non-answer is a signal. Either she didn't respond to the email, which contradicts her stated desire for resolution, or she did respond and doesn't want to say what she said. Either way, her body reacted in a way that told a different story from the narrative she had been building for the previous hour. Here is what I noticed across the comments on every video covering this story, including my own. The overwhelming majority of criticism directed at Cabot came from women. She said it herself, 90% of online comments and every single in-person confrontation came from women. And I have seen this pattern before in my Anna Wintour and Chloe Moll video, in my Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sanchez video, women being the harshest judges of other women who step outside the lines. I don't have a clean answer for why this happens, but I think it's worth naming. Because the gender signal tax is not just about what men get away with that women don't. It's also about who enforces that tax most harshly. And this brings me to the question I want you to sit with. Not about Cabot, but about yourself. When you see another woman make a mistake publicly, what is your first instinct? To extend the same grace you would want, or something else? And what does that instinct tell you about what we have all observed about how women should behave? What would you do if this was your career, your children, your reputation? What would you do? If any of you have found any video of Cabot from before this incident, conference talks, interviews, any professional footage, share it in the comments. I would genuinely like to see her baseline. Now, let us look at the man who said nothing. Not one statement, not one social media post. His LinkedIn deleted immediately. The only apology that circulated online was a fake. Byron never said any of it. The man whose cancer joke started everything, Chris Martin, has spoken more about this story than the man at the center of it. His wife removed his name from her social media immediately after the video went viral, not the behavior of someone who already knew her marriage was over. It is the behavior of someone who just found out. He was photographed with her afterwards, both wearing wedding rings, not consistent with the couple who had been separated, as Cabot claimed during her interview with Oprah.
That she was separated from her husband and that her boss was also separated or said he was separated from his wife.
Andy Byron quietly considered suing Coldplay for emotional distress and invasion of privacy. Legal experts called the case weak. But the attempt itself is a signal. The strategist doesn't manage public exposure. He tries to remove the evidence through the most protected channel available. And later, while Cabot was explaining herself to Oprah, Byron was receiving job offers. Are CEOs just regular people who make regular mistakes? Or does their role carry a different level of responsibility because of what they are paid and what they represent? And when something goes wrong, does the silence protect you, or does it simply transfer all the damage to whoever was standing next to you? Byron made the choice. He chose the exit, and his silence, whether intentional or not, left her holding everything. This is what I call the gender signal tax. The same moment, the same choice, two people, but the cost of visibility was not distributed equally. She wanted to explain, he decided to wait. Cabot named this herself. She said, I have to explain and justify. He has the luxury of staying silent and can go back to work when he is ready. I don't. This is a stark difference between the man and the woman in this situation. And she's right about that. Whatever else is true or not true in her story, and it's worth noting, she had the same option he had. She could have stayed silent. She chose the stage. The choice is exactly what a performer initiator does under threat. But the most interesting signal in this entire story is not his silence. It's what happened next, and the person who decides to make it happen. Within hours of the video going viral, a company had already decided the two people's worst moment was their best marketing opportunity. Astronomer lost two executives to a scandal. Both resigned. Pete DeJoy, the actual co-founder of Astronomer, who had been chief product officer, stepped in as interim CEO. He issued a statement about ethical conduct and accountability, and then Ryan Reynolds got involved. Ryan Reynolds, the actor behind the Deadpool franchise, the man behind Maximum Effort, one of the most successful, fast-reactive advertising agencies in the world, saw an opportunity. Within 14 hours, he was making an ad using the scandal as marketing material. Without anyone's approval, and he admitted this publicly at a Wall Street Journal summit, he started producing it within 14 hours, spending his own agency's money before Astronomer had even formally agreed to commission it. He said, "I'm paying for that. I didn't have their blessing yet." Let me explain why the casting choice was so deliberate and layered, because most coverage missed this. Chris Martin is Coldplay's lead singer. His joke on stage, "Either they're having an affair or they're just very shy," ignited the entire story. Gwyneth Paltrow is Chris Martin's ex-wife. They consciously uncoupled in 2014. A phrase Gwyneth herself coined that became a cultural shorthand for making painful endings look graceful and intentional. She coined the phrase, "She owns the brand of graceful endings," and then she appeared in an ad that was anything but graceful about someone else's ending. The irony writes itself. So Reynolds hired the ex-wife of the man whose cancer destroyed 2 careers to represent the company where those careers ended. That is Maximum Effort's signature. Find the most absurd angle and monetize it.
Thank you for your interest in Astronomer. Hi, I'm Gwyneth Paltrow. I've been hired on a very temporary basis to speak on behalf of the 300 plus employees at Astronomer. Astronomer has gotten a lot of questions over the last few days, and they wanted me to answer the most common ones. Yes, Astronomer is the best place to run Apache Airflow, unifying the experience of running data, ML, and AI pipelines at scale. We've been thrilled so many people have a newfound interest in data workflow automation. As for the other questions we've received, yes, there is still room available at our Beyond Analytics event in September. We will now be returning to what we do best, delivering game-changing results for our customers. Thank you for your interest.
The ad got 30 million views on X. Pete DeJoy, the co-founder and new interim CEO of Astronomer, celebrated publicly on LinkedIn that Astronomer was now a household name. The same week, Cabot's teenagers were hiding at school from death threats. And here is something I noticed watching Gwyneth in the ad itself. Her head also moves slightly away from what she's saying during certain moments. Even the person hired to perform the distraction from the story shows signal incongruence while performing it. The layers of misalignment go all the way through this story, from the kiss camera to the interview to the ad. Every layer has its own gap between what is being presented and what the body is communicating. Think about this from a leadership perspective. Reynolds made a decision in 14 hours that affected people he had never met. He saw an opportunity and moved fast. How often do we make fast decisions in moments of competitive pressure without thinking deeply enough about who pays the price? Think about the last fast decision you made professionally. Did you think about who else was affected? Reynolds didn't. The human cost was someone else's problem. That is a leadership signal, and your team reads it, whether you say it out loud or not. Reynolds' wife, Blake Lively, was simultaneously in a lawsuit against Justin Baldoni for a smear campaign against her reputation. Cabot pointed this out directly on Oprah. She said, "His wife has just gone through something really similar, and I find it really astounding that he thought this was a great way to lead." She's right. And Gwyneth Paltrow, whose company Goop is built on the positioning of uplifting women, appeared in an ad that used the scandal as marketing material, treating the worst moment of Cabot's professional life as content for brand awareness without ever acknowledging the human cost. Cabot experienced that as mockery. She threw out every Goop product she owned. She had been a genuine fan. She said, "I was such a fan of your company, which seemed to be about uplifting women, and then she did this. How dare she? What a hypocrite." The gap between the signal a brand sends, "we uplift women," and what the brand actually does when it costs nothing to uplift someone, that gap is itself a signal worth reading. 2 people lost their careers. A company tuned that into a brand asset. The PR industry called it a masterstroke. And within months, Cabot was charging $175 to speak at a crisis communications conference as an expert on surviving exactly the crisis she failed to prevent. $875, not exactly the six-figure keynote rate, but it's a start. And it tells you something about where she is and where she's trying to go. This is the performer initiator finding the stage even in the wreckage. When visibility is how you exist in the world, you find a way to perform regardless of what the stage is made of. I covered the same gap between signal and reality in my McDonald's CEO breakdown. Cabot and Byron thought they were at the concert. They were actually at work, because in the age of cameras everywhere, there is no off-duty for anyone with a title and a public face. Look at this image. They are standing together. Cabot is slightly behind, slightly stiff, arms at her sides. Oprah is forward dominant, leading the space. Even in a shot, the power dynamic is visible in the body before a single word is spoken. Oprah reads as a connector initiator personality type with institutional agenda. Relationship-driven, audience-aware, warmth as currency. But warmth and neutrality are not the same thing, and in this interview, the warmth was not evenly distributed. And look at the interview setup. Cabot and Oprah seated in the center. On both sides of them, rows of audience members forming literal walls of people surrounding them. This is a constructed environment, a staged redemption ceremony with witnesses. Someone designed this room to make Cabot feel simultaneously supported and protected, and to signal to the viewer at home that a community of women has gathered to hear her out. Almost entirely women in that audience. Various ages, diverse, attentive, nodding throughout, so much nodding that multiple viewers commented the audience appeared coached. If you have time, watch the interview, link in the description. This audience nods at everything with the same steady rhythm regardless of what is being said. Watch Oprah throughout the interview. She says yes constantly. Yes, 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 while Cabot speaks, affirming, validating at a level that goes beyond facilitation into advocacy. This is not a neutral journalism. This is institutional power choosing a side. She also admitted she had judged Cabot before knowing the full story. I was like everybody else. That admission is worth analyzing. Why does an interviewer begin by telling the subject she was wrong about her? It immediately positions Oprah as someone compensating for an earlier misjudgment. That is not a neutral starting position for an interviewer. Oprah revealed during the interview that she had called Gwyneth Paltrow beforehand and obtained her account of the ad situation. Whether that was journalistic preparation, coordination with Cabot, or something in between, we don't know. What we do know is that the result gave Cabot a public platform to respond to the email accusation without having to raise it herself. Someone benefited from that sequence, possibly both of them. And watch the very end of the interview. Cabot reaches for the hug.
Good job. Good job. Well done. Well done. Well done. Well.
She initiates it. Oprah receives it, a warm enough hug, a tap on the back, not emotionally overwhelmed, not the tearful embrace you might expect after an hour of being vulnerable. And then Oprah says, good job, good job, good job, over and over. It starts to feel like something she tries to confirm to herself rather than a genuine emotional response. And there is a moment during the audience interaction where Oprah appears to start guiding Cabot away, physically moving to wrap up, and then stops when another audience member begins to speak. Watch that moment.
One of the most empathetic people. And
I just want to say, like, me sitting here, I was things and people making their own narratives. You speaking out does.
Thank you.
I'm like, wow.
Thank you.
you really told it.
Yeah, you did a good job.
It reads like a parent who has decided their child has been on stage long enough and is ready to take them home, then decides to let one more person speak. The protective energy is not journalistic, it's parental. And here is a professional question underneath all of this. When something goes wrong in your career, who is in your corner with institutional authority? Who will construct a room of supporters around you and call celebrities on your behalf? Most people don't have that. Most people have only the signals they built before the crisis arrives. The credibility, the relationships, the reputation built over years of consistent behavior. That is not something you find when you need it. It's something you build long before you ever need it. Do you know what you are building? Cabot's mistake was not going to a concert or developing feelings for someone. Her mistake, the one she acknowledged herself, was not separating her personal choices from her professional role. She was the person at that company responsible for preventing exactly the situation she created. And her body knew it. That is why the head kept saying no, while the mouth kept explaining. Is an HR person just a regular person who can make the same mistakes as everyone else? Yes, of course. They're human, but the role carries a different level of visibility and accountability. The same way a CEO does. The same way anyone in a position of institutional authority does. The signals you send from that position are amplified. The consequences are amplified. The scrutiny doesn't distribute equally. And I want to raise something I genuinely don't know the answer to. Cabot said she doesn't understand why women came after her so harshly. She said nobody knows her. But I find myself wondering, in her years of HR leadership, how did she treat the people who came to her for protection? The people who reported workplace issues and needed someone with institutional authority to hear them fairly. I'm not making a claim, I'm asking a question that the signals in this interview made me think about. Because sometimes the people who don't understand the anger directed at them are the people with the least awareness of the signals they sent before the camera ever turned on. What are you projecting right now in your professional life? What would happen if the camera tuned on you at the wrong moment? What decisions are you making today that your future self will have to explain? Because in this story, everyone made the choice. Byron chose to tell Cabot he was separated. Cabot chose to believe him and go for it while being a HR person. Reynolds chose to make the ad without permission. Paltrow chose to appear in it. Oprah chose to give Cabot the platform and shape it before it aired. Pete the Joy celebrated that Astronomer became a household name from someone else's pain. Every choice sent a signal. Every signal had a consequence. And not one of those people fully anticipated what would happen next. I will not be surprised if a different version of this story surfaces later. The signals are already telling me something the words haven't confirmed yet. That is not just their story. That is the story of every professional decision made in public, every signal sent in a room where someone is watching, every choice that felt private until it wasn't. Tell me in the comments, what surprised you most in this video? What did you saw and feel watching Cabot in that room with Oprah? And do you trust her story? I'm Tatiana Teppoeva. Subscribe if you want to see more.